Inheritance. This is a mechanism that allows you to repeat yourself less. So imagine I have two more classes that I need to do. I'm creating a program for I don't know, like a high school or something, and I need a student. And every student needs to have a name, private string name, and every student needs to have an age, right? Because I mean they're a living person, so they have a name and age, and maybe they have I don't know, like double array grades, an array of grades from different, let's say, subjects. Doesn't really matter what these data are. I'm just inventing this on the fly. In you would always abstract what you need and what you don't need. But the point here is now you can see that we are repeating a bit of data, right? We're repeating the name and the age from the person. And imagine we have another class, which is a teacher now. Teacher, well, the teacher also needs a private string name, of course, because every teacher has a name, every teacher also has an age, but the teachers might also have, I don't know, like integer years of experience, how much they have been teaching, and maybe private string subject. What subject are they teaching? Something like that. So in order to avoid this repetition, like name age here, and then like you can have a janitor who also has a name and an age, and you might have I don't know, like some other classes that are going to represent some other people. What we can use here and we should is inheritance. Inheritance allows you to group together everything that's common to some of your classes. So you know instead of having every class have every piece of data for itself, you can group together common stuff and then you can inherit from that parent class. And that's what inheritance allows you to do. So here, instead of having every student, every teacher, and every the type copy name and age and all of the related stuff, we can simply remove that from here and we can use the word extends here and we can say what we want to extend. So extend also tells you what it does. It takes the person and extends it. So it adds something onto the person. Person itself is just a normal person. It has a name, age, and height. I mean, let's remove the height. We don't necessarily care about the height anymore. That was an example. Let's say for a school program, we don't need the height. We only need the name and the age. So now we will have a student who is a person, a teacher who is a person. They will both have name and age. So let me just go ahead and extend the person here as well. And this is inheritance, grouping together of common data in parent classes. This is called a parent class. This is called a child class. Also, this is called a super class, while this is called a derived class. There is a lot of synonyms here. This is also like parent, super, or base class. This is derived, child, or I don't even know, like all the words, but there are a couple of different terms which you can use. So these child classes contain everything that a person contains plus some extra stuff. So they will inherit everything from the parent. For example, they will inherit age, name. Not only that, they will inherit the methods as well. So now, for example, let me show you an example immediately. Of course, the height here, I got rid of the height. So let's just like get rid of the height here. It's not necessary anymore. And let's also get rid of the prints. Now let me create a student. Student S equals new student. Now for S, you can see he has a name. Why? Well, because he inherited it from a person. He also has get age, set age. That comes from the person. But also students can have their own extra stuff. For example, I don't know, like public double get average grade, for example. In Serbia, grades are integers. Like different countries may have different things like A, B, C, D. That's like in English, right? In America, or at least as far as I've seen in the movies, right? You have he got a B minus. I mean, I don't even know what that means. In Serbia, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for high school and middle school. Elementary school, I don't know what it is in your country, but let's just assume it, numbers. Grades are numbers, maybe even integers. And we want to calculate the average grade. I'm just going to say return 0. We don't have to implement the method actually. But let's assume that for a student, we can get the average grade. Now you can see student has get average grade, which is kind of bolded here because it's trying to tell you, okay, this is coming from the class, while the other stuff is coming from the parent classes. So get age and set age also exist. Name also exists because name is here in the person. Of course, private stuff is still kept private, and that's pretty much it. So here I can also in main I can do s dot grades, or can I made it private, didn't I? So if I of course make this like not private, I'm going to be able to use grades as well. So now s has, well, grades that it defined, name that the person defined. Of course, in the background, it does have access to the age, but you cannot access it directly here because it's private. But you can get the average grade that's defined in a student, and you can also get these two methods, set age and get age, which were defined in the parent. And it's always a good practice to use inheritance because it allows you to duplicate less of your code. Again, imagine like we want to have this logic for, well, not allowing negative age. We would have to copy this method and have the exactly same code for a student, for a teacher, and for any other class that might have age, right? So that's why you group together the functionality that's common to all of them. And you add or extend that functionality in a child class. You add years of experience. Of course, it makes no sense to store this variable in a person because like our student or some other person that's not working in the school, this doesn't mean anything for them. Also the subject, what's a subject for a student? That's not supposed to be part of person. Similar to how, well, teachers, they don't have grades, right? So it would be stupid to put these grades in the person class. It simply doesn't belong there. Every class has only what it needs, and then only it has only the special stuff that makes that class special. Like students, they can have grades, teachers, they can have subjects and years of experience, and I don't know, like salaries and whatnot, everything that you need to keep track of in a system that keeps, works in school. But the person only contains everything that's common to every person, right? We might have a student email here as well. We might want to have an email for both students and teachers. That might be a good thing to store here, and it's up to your consideration to see what goes here. Can we inherit the private in child? That's a great question. And the answer is no, we cannot access it. Here, if I was to do age equals 50, it's complaining. It's saying age is private. I can do name. I can easily change name. I can say something. I can access name directly because name is not private. So private, now we see the full extent of private. It literally means only this file can touch that. No other file can, right? We may use set age. Yes, that's correct. But here comes the intermediary form protected. It's still not public, but we can use it here. I mean, of course, we're going to explain that. I told you we're going to explain all of these in much further detail in some of the next classes. We have like 3 classes dedicated to this. So thus far, we're only covering the basics, So I'm not going to like go super deep into any of these things. For now, just remember, private stuff only from this file. So even though my student has a copy of age stored inside of itself, it cannot access it directly. It can access it via get age or set age, but it cannot access the variable itself directly. Again, it's protected inside of the person class. What happens when we use a setter? Yeah, that's correct. Like you can use a setter. That age, that will change its own internal age, right? So even though it has a copy of that variable, it doesn't have access to it because the person made it private, right? So that's the thing. A student will have a copy of grades and a copy of every variable declared by its parent. That's pretty much it. Can you tell me, Vikram, what do you mean? What happens when we use a setter of a person class? It'll simply set its own age. There is no separate thing, like there is no, let me show you here in the debugger, I think even student S, so when let's print out S, for example, let's put a breakpoint here. When we use set age is private, how can store? We use a public method. So that public method accesses age, which is private. That's okay. Because again, this whole logic here well, we've made this to be publicly accessible to everybody. So that's okay. We have the internal logic to keep age safe, from unwanted changes. So let me just see if I can put a breakpoint here, and you guys are going to be able to see what happens a little bit better. Here it is. You can see that the student is a person. So it has all of these variables. It's not separately saved. It's saved within this student. The student has grades, name, age, and email. Person has name, age, and email. So this just gets something extra. So still, age belongs to the student, even though it cannot directly access it. I know it seems kind of counterintuitive. It's not like age is in some person and student borrows from it. No. Student contains everything that a person would have. You can see here, he literally has a copy of all of these variables, even though it doesn't have direct access to this. It might seem kind of counterintuitive, but that's just the way it's done. So if you want to allow your children classes to use your private variables, you should make them protected rather than private. So that's the thing. There is different levels of protection. Private is the most protective, saying none of you guys are going to be careful enough with age. I'm making it private, So if you want to allow everybody to use it, any children classes to use it, you just make it protected. Okay, hopefully this answers your question. And let's go back here. And now, of course, you've seen now the act of inheriting from something allows you to basically have a copy of every variable, like you have your own copy of every variable, and you also get access to all of the methods that are declared, and that's pretty much it. So you can see here, there's an example. You can have a class called vehicle, and then you can have a car, which is a vehicle. You can have a motorcycle, which is a vehicle. You can have a truck, which is a vehicle. You can have a bus, which is a vehicle. And they all have something in common. So you store that common stuff like, I don't know, the weight of the vehicle or the motor of the vehicle. If it's a motor vehicle, if it's not, then, it doesn't have a motor or something. So there can be different levels of inheritance. You can have a vehicle, then you can have a land vehicle and an air vehicle. Like both of those are going to add a little bit of functionality. Then for the land vehicle, you have motorized. Okay, let's say they're all motorized. You can have a truck, a car, and a bus. And then for, I don't know, a truck, you can have a truck with, what is it called? Like with the cold storage, with the refrigerator truck, that maybe, and the regular truck, and so on, So there can be multiple levels of this inheritance, and there usually are.